Tesla's a big gainer today as Morgan Stanley comes off the sidelines and upgrades the name to Overweight.
The analyst Adam Jonas is bullish on Tesla's supercomputer Dojo, which is powered by artificial intelligence, and believes it puts the EV maker at an asymmetric advantage in a $10 trillion total addressable market. Jonas also raising his price target on the stock to $400 from $250 per share. So that one of the latest moves here around Tesla, and said specifically investors have been debating for a while whether it's an auto company or a tech company. He believes it's both and sees the biggest value driver being from software and services revenue for Tesla.
Back to halftime, let's get to our call of the day. Morgan Stanley's Adam Jonas upgrading Tesla to outperform and raising his price target to $400. That's about 60% upside. From here, Jonas saying Tesla's supercomputer project Dojo could have a $500 billion enterprise value. So $400, Joe, that's just where Tesla hit their highs a couple years ago. But, you know, we've heard kind of the up and coming aspects, the new market aspects of this Dojo computer for quite some time. Do you think that something's changed now that would indicate that there's an additional $500 billion baked into this opportunity?
Well, Adam is the one that's suggesting the potential here, and some other words that he uses within the note as he talks about this potentially being a $10 trillion marketplace, and that Tesla maintains an asymmetric advantage in that marketplace. Now, you hear those words, that's pretty compelling in terms of believing that Tesla can continue its upward trajectory that it's had so far year to date and eventually hit that $400 price target that he has. Again, my ownership of Tesla is equal weighted in its nature. This is a stock that for you as a viewer, you have to understand it's exhibited a lot of volatility over the last 12 months. And I think you have to size the position accordingly to accept that volatility. You're always assuming risk in the marketplace. It's how do you manage the risk? How do you shape the risk? And I think a lot of the problem that investors have in their ownership of Tesla is they get somewhat tempted and intoxicated by the extreme price movement, in particular to the upside, and they extend too much leverage towards the position. And that leads you to be somewhat susceptible to the extreme volatility that this stock has. So the fundamental aspect of what Adam Jonas is talking about here in the long term, it's something that we've heard in terms of autonomous driving and self-driving taxis. We've heard about that. I mean, we heard years ago that they were going to offer something that was going to be competitive to Uber and Lyft. We don't see that in the reality of today.
Well, as I see messages popping up, I'll try to answer them. That was a lot of messages, actually. Which way is it? Like 600. So now it's gone into the... Well, just like humans. Yeah, just, you know. Alright, we've arrived at this random pin.
It might try to pull over. Let's see if it does. Sometimes it does pull over.
Yeah, so it kind of, so this is pretty cool. So the car just pulled over to the side of the road, and
the passenger should get off.
And parked. So it knows at the end of its destination, based on the video that's received, that at the end of the destination, you pull over to the side and park.
Yeah,
and
it also gets the exact pin location in addition to the navigation route. So, you know, the pin is close. It's a good spot here. It puts over here, but in big parking lots where there might not be any map, you should just go as close to the pin as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, even without any route or anything like that.
Yeah, and in fact, in sort of robotaxi world, it would actually just, you know, probably perhaps know what you look like and just literally look for you.
Yeah. If you have a picture or something, you can just look for
exactly.
you.
It's like if you're signed up and it's like, you know, just say, you don't have to, but if you want the car to literally find you, you just have to send it a picture of you, and it will look for you and wait for you.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can also say, drop me off at the Starbucks or something. And
Yeah.
it should drop you off at the building's entrance as close to Starbucks as possible, as opposed to somewhere random, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I guess, let's see,
Ed, have others underestimated the potential upside coming through from Tesla around Dojo? This is around, of course, the upgrade from Morgan Stanley.
Yeah, so the thesis from Morgan Stanley, I should say the latest thesis from Morgan Stanley and Adam Jonas, is that the long-term benefits of their work in proprietary silicon and compute, Dojo, could add $500 billion to the market cap. I say the latest thesis because Adam Jonas has talked up the software potential of Tesla before. The first time that he kind of came out with this big bull case call and updated his call on the stock like 70% was in 2015. And he envisioned a future where Tesla operates like Uber and Lyft, a rideshare service, but operates its own fleet of Tesla vehicles, own fleet of robo-taxis. And clearly in present day 2023, that's not yet come true. But Tesla has made a commitment to develop its own silicon and its own compute power to train neural networks. And the latest that Musk has said is that they'll put $1 billion in an R&D perspective into Dojo to make it better. And Morgan Stanley sees that upside coming.
Some criticism is that this valuation, or is this based on an idea? Like, it's not material yet. It's just like, hey, if that happens, then this could be the amount. So that there is a lot of uncertainty and skepticism still around it.
Well, so in the first instance, Tesla makes money from software sales of full self-driving beta, right? Just as they've used price hikes as a lever and price cuts as a lever on the cars, they've raised the price of FSD from sort of $10,000 to $15,000. That's very high margin revenue. What Jonas is arguing is that their work in compute with Dojo is akin to what AWS did in cracking the cloud market early, that it opens up the opportunity for them to sell a much wider range of software services and to really own the data that comes from vehicles. And this is so commonplace now. If you think about all the news flow from Ford, Mercedes of the last 12 months, they've really focused on software competence and their cloud partnerships because they know that it's higher margin revenue. And if you have consumers that buy cars at a higher price point, there's also a likelihood that they're willing to spend on software upgrades as well.
Welcome back to Next Gen Investing. It's time for a look at a developing story with Kevin Green, senior markets correspondent here for the network. So Kevin, objectively, one of the most interesting moves throughout today's market is Tesla. It is up 9.5% now. Walk us through what's driving shares higher.
Seeing Morgan Stanley actually issuing a research note and actually upgrading the stock to a overweight from equal weight, as well as increasing its price target to $400. That's up from $250. And Jenny, what was actually very interesting is that this note dropped yesterday, around in the afternoon here, but they're really calling out Tesla's ability to not only command the auto market, but also the software market. And they do believe that the Dojo supercomputing system is going to be the key for Tesla to be able to expand its market share, not only in the auto space, but as well in the software space. And it could add up to $500 billion to Tesla's enterprise value through the enhanced adoption rates in mobility and network services here. So this is actually obviously a big story. And a lot of investors and Tesla bulls have really been talking about the Dojo platform, as well as autonomous driving or full self-driving, as a key factor for Tesla's growth and their ability to also potentially license that technology to other companies that would like to expand their EV fleets and utilize their services. So not only are they able to try to train their models and trying to put them into the cars right now, but also maybe there's the potential in selling this technology, selling the software, or maybe even selling some time for other automakers to utilize this Dojo supercomputer to train their own models. And I think that's going to be a key area that a lot of investors are going to be focusing on. We just have to kind of keep in mind, we continue to talk about this compute when it comes to NVIDIA chips, and Tesla and Elon has acknowledged that they are trying to get as many NVIDIA chips as they possibly can. But I think the key here is also the amount of data that Tesla has, which rivals no one else in the industry here. So not only are they able to, be the first to get full self-driving up and running, but they're also able to potentially utilize that data set for other automakers that are out there as well. So there's a treasure trove of opportunities when it comes to revenue streams for Tesla. Adam Jonas is obviously highlighting that right now. We're seeing this, about face when it comes to the price target. And that's why we're seeing the stock up higher today.
So Kevin, just to keep things balanced here, the bearish case argument is that we are nowhere near these robo-taxis, this fully autonomous driving. Their FSD is sort of a pipe dream at this point. And I guess you could argue both sides, because I do think this is something that's going to happen. Just timing when that occurs, of course, is very difficult. But what do you think now going forward for Tesla is the most important case for this company? Because we have so many factors. I mean, you have the battery production, you have now this Dojo supercomputer, which is very cool. You have the North American charging standard, which has been adopted by so many players. And then there's the bears that are arguing, margins and the fact that this should be valued like a car company, which I don't necessarily agree with. But what is sort of your stance on Tesla now going forward?
Yeah, there's a lot of different issues, obviously, that Tesla is going to try to address here in the upcoming, not only months, but years. I think the biggest area of opportunity for Tesla, and not a lot of people talk about this, is the energy storage and their battery capacity business here. It's the fastest growing side of their business. And they have the ability and the recognition when it comes to their branding to be able to expand their supercharging stations throughout the United States, and also having the backing of the United States government, no matter who's really in party. And there's a huge demand when it comes to the utility market in itself. It's only controlled by a couple of major players, and Tesla could actually disrupt this business. They're doing it right now when it comes to solar, but they could really expand that if it comes to the battery packs and things of that nature. And last but not least, what I will say is full self-driving is definitely a thing. We are seeing it on the West Coast. People are talking about going on, hour and a half, 2-hour rides and really rarely ever having to touch the wheel. I think really the key right now is going to be how it's going to be regulated as it continues to expand. That is going to be an issue for Tesla down the road, just like it was an issue when it came to the cars in itself starting to gain popularity, or trains or airplanes. The regulatory framework really hasn't been built out when it comes to FSD. I think that could be the biggest hurdle for them. But once again, the technology is there, and if they can show that it's really safe and effective and efficient, then once again, they kind of can lead the horse to water if it comes to the regulators in itself. So I think that's going to be another area that they're going to be focusing on here in the near term.
Yeah, I completely agree. And from my understanding also of FSD, one of the biggest hiccups is the human error element. So I think get this stuff on the road, because if you ever drive in the Midwest, you know that we need as much controlled and help driving as we can get here. So I think this is definitely something that's going to be very, very cool, and can't wait to see what this looks like in real life. But we will leave it there. Appreciate the breakdown on Tesla's nice 9% move higher today, Kevin Green.